We've recently found lost film footage reports inside of a secret compartment in the Los Alamos labs in New Mexico from the time period after World War II.
We will be viewing the newly found videos of the Manhattan Project.
Our first footage is an interview of Albert Einstein from the year 1947.
But before we start, here is some background information on the Manhattan Project.
Albert Einstein and Enrico Fermi sent a letter to President Roosevelt warning the Allies that the Nazi was trying to develop an atomic bomb.
Thus, the Manhattan Project was born.
And just in case you didn't know, the Manhattan Project took place during the years 1939 through 1945.
Now that background information is over, let's go to the video. Hello, Mr. Einstein. Most people say that you invented the atomic bomb. Is that true?
No, but I did come up with the theory, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, and that eventually did lead to the creating of the atomic bomb.
In 1939, you were in Nazi persecution. Why did you flee?
I fled because Hitler was planning to put me to death.
You also wrote a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt urging him to make a project for the atomic bomb. Why did you know that this was the right thing to do?
I thought it was the right thing to do because the Axis were trying to create an atomic bomb that could put mass destruction all over the world, and the only hope for the Allies winning the war was creating an atomic bomb.
After the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, did you feel guilty that you were a part of making this bomb?
I felt very guilty that I was a part of so many people's deaths, innocent people, but it's a casualty of war.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Mr. Einstein. Those were some great words from Albert Einstein.
Our next footage is an interview with U.S. General Eisenhower from 1949.
Let's go!
Hello, General Eisenhower. Do you think that the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was the correct thing to do?
Yes, I think it was the correct thing to do. Japan would not surrender, and we needed to do this to end the war.
Do you think you could have won the war without the use of nuclear warfare?
Yes, we could have won the war because we had Japan pinned and they were the only country left. All we had to do was storm in, but we would have lost many soldiers' lives if we did.
What are your views on the Cold War?
The Cold War was just an argument between the US and Russia, and then it escalated into a war about communist and non-communist countries where they just thought each other were going to take over the world.
Well, thank you, General Eisenhower. Howard, that's all we have for today.
Good to see the view of a U.S. general.
Our next footage is from another report of President Harry Truman from 1950.
Action! President Truman, how did you feel when you found out about the Manhattan Project?
I was hurt that I was not told about it earlier from President Roosevelt. I didn't even know about it when I was the vice president. That's how secretive it was. I finally learned about it in 1945 when I became president of the United States. It was so secretive, many of the employees didn't even know they were working for an atomic bomb development. There was even a Soviet Union spy that was able to get in and found out about the Manhattan Project, but he was luckily apprehended.
Speaking of Soviet Union, what are your views on the Cold War?
I think that the Soviets' main plan was to take over the world.
Do you think that the orders to drop the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were correct?
I believe that they were correct, and they were an essential part in winning the war.
How can you say that when 250,000 people died?
I didn't want them to lose their lives, but I was told that if we went in with our men, that the same amount of American soldiers would die.
Thank you, President Truman, for all this time. President Truman not feel bad about those innocent deaths.
I know, right? But now we are going to show some footage of a Russian sneaking into a Manhattan Project base.
You Christ, Yatom Bumbu. I must steal the atomic bomb.
Hey, you! You're not supposed to be here. You're under arrest for trying to steal information on the atomic bomb, Julian von Fuchs.
The U.S. was so suspicious of the Soviet Union. We have just found another footage of J. Robert Oppenheimer, an interview. Robert Oppenheimer, can you please explain how the atomic bomb works?
Sure. The atomic bomb uses something called fission. Fission is the opposite of fusion. Fusion is what the sun uses to bind helium and hydrogen atoms together. Fission splits atoms apart.
Is it that simple?
No, it isn't. First, you need radioactive atoms, such as plutonium or uranium. And when it smashes into a neutron, the atoms split and releasing energy, and the process continues.
Doesn't sound so complicated.
Well, there's even more. Even that won't work. Eventually, it will reach a supercritical state, but that won't explode because the radioactive material needs to be compressed long enough for it to work.
Wow, that sounds pretty confusing. Do you mind telling us how to keep it compressed?
There are two methods. One is the gun method. It's where you have a tube where there's a uranium atom or something, or plutonium atom on one side and the same thing on the other. When they smash together, they're stuck together long enough so that they're compressed and then explode eventually. And that was the method used for the bombing of Hiroshima.
What is the other method?
The other method is, well, much less expensive and fuel costly. It's called the implosion method. There's a sphere around a radioactive material, like plutonium or uranium again, and it pushes down on it where there's neutrons inside, and they're compressed long enough and they explode. And that was used for the bombing of Nagasaki.
Thank you so much for all this time. Is there anything else about the atomic bomb you can tell us?
Well, not legally.
Well, thanks anyway.
We're back with the studios with the Manhattan Project specialist to talk to us about the Manhattan Project.
Hello.
How many employees were working for the Manhattan Project?
An estimated 120,000, but most of them did not know what they were working for.
Were there any spy missions in the Manhattan Project?
Yes, one famous one was called the Allosos mission, where very special agents were sent to Europe to find information on how the Nazis were doing on the Manhattan Project. It started in 1943.
Who's in charge of this mission?
General Leslie Groves was in charge.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, Otto Hahn, Lise Meitner, and Fritz Strassmann were the first people to find out when the radioactive material got hit by the neutrons and the atoms split, but eventually the Allies got ahead.
Well, thank you for your time. Well, that's our special report on Jack and Jack News Today.
See you next time, Merca.